Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What do you do when no one else is watching? What do you do that makes you happy for no reason at all? What are you obsessed with? I'm Leslie Arfin, and I'm a writer, but I'm also a dancer, a painter, a vapor, a dollhouse enthusiast, and basically just an overall hobbyist. My podcast, Filling the Void, is all about what other people are fanatically into. We talk about hobbies, even if you don't have one.
Listen to Filling the Void on Tuesdays on the Arios Network and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Hi, it's Dave here. This is my wife, Kathy.
Hello.
This is The Cinemile. It's the podcast where we walk home from the movies. Today we're going to see the latest Marvel Cinematic Universe release. It's called Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Quantumania, all one word.
Hard to believe they're on their 300th movie now, isn't it?
Yes, it's hard to believe that we are 69 years old and we've been watching 50 years of Marvel movies. Yeah, so I think here's my vibe on this, and I if you want to hear my sort of overall feelings on the state of this universe and maybe cinema, go to our best of the year 2022, because I kind of rounded up my feelings on 2022's MCU releases towards the end in the most disappointing section.
Is this the first of 2023?
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
it's also the first of Phase 5.
Wow. Well,
so,
before you speak, because you sound a bit sad.
Go on.
I do have to say that normally Dave and I avoid trailers for films, but because I don't particularly care about Marvel movies, and I saw that this trailer was trending when it came out on Twitter, I watched it, and I was really positively engaged by the trailer, and it's actually made me interested to the point where I was actively searching, when is this movie coming out?
Is it the Yellow Brick Road trailer, Elton John? I saw that one.
I don't know, but it had someone in it that I wanted to see, but I don't know if it's a spoiler for you.
Well, I guess not say. No, I know. I saw that first trailer. I don't think I saw the new one you're talking about.
Oh, right. Well, anyway, I
we won't say it in case anyone cares.
I'm not dying to see this movie, but I was proactively when's that coming out? Because it looks good.
But there's a character in it who we have seen in something else that you want to see.
And it's tying into something that happened a while ago in some TV stuff that never amounted to anything, and it's they're finally actually doing something with that.
Yeah.
Something that I really liked in one of the TV shows. So, and obviously I like Paul Rudd, and I do feel like the Ant-Man movies are definitely the tier C of the Marvel universe. But
well,
I'm interested to see this movie, but at the same time I feel why is this movie out? I'm sure it's just table setting in other movies.
Give everyone a quick recap of how you feel about the Ant-Man thing then. You think they're tier C?
They're grand.
Yeah.
They're fine. They're just, I don't even really remember them, and I've seen them all.
Well, I'll tell you, I remember your opinions better than you do sometimes.
It's just hard to keep
one
up
we
with
quite
these
enjoyed. We that came out before we were doing this podcast, so our thoughts are not available to retroactively. They're not on demand.
If they're not on the podcast, I don't remember.
Does it even exist? However, I did a Marvel movie marathon very early on, and that I did cover off my feelings on it there. But the second one we did review. So if you scroll back in the feed to whatever year that was released.
Was that Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Ant-Man and the Wasp. Right, yeah. Neither of us liked it at all. And so I quite like Paul Rudd, and I think these characters are quite fun. I'm just deflated about the whole thing. This feels like a chore, honestly.
If it
I'm
feels
only
like
going
a chore,
to this.
Can I say we can turn around and not go? When I say literally no one's paying us to see this.
I mean, they kind of are. We have
no one is.
Patreon.
But the patrons aren't paying us to watch
/The Cinemile.
But our patrons only pay us to watch retro movies.
Yeah, but the Patreon only exists because if there's an actual podcast attached to it. We're not just a Patreon channel.
My point is we don't have to see the movie if you're dreading it.
The people want us to see it. They need it. Don't you guys? Don't you listeners? You need this.
I mean, everyone's so thirsty for this film.
Care?
Everyone is so thirsty for this film. Everyone's been waiting for a Marvel movie because it's been so long since we got one.
But they're not bothered about the Marvel movies. They're wondering what do the Cinemile think? What do Dave and Kathy think of Quantumania? And that's what you're about to find out, because we're here at the cinema. It's right up here. So, yeah, look, you seem quite excited, actually, and I'm glad. I'm not.
I just really like
However,
who I think is the villain in this movie. I really like him.
Yeah, I mean, he's on the poster, so it's not, again, I'm not bringing up the whole is a poster a spoiler thing, but guys, if you don't know who the villain is, he's on the poster. I do remember around this time last year, we went to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and I was feeling a little bit similar, I remember, before that, and I came out of that really pleasantly surprised, had a good time. So I'm really hoping to be surprised by this movie.
Okay,
so, anyway,
me too.
Right, let's go in. We'll check back in a little bit.
Bye.
Bye.
Where are we?
When are you gonna come down? When are you going to land? I should have stayed on the phone. I should have listened to my own mind.
It's a secret universe beneath ours. What are you so afraid of? There's something I never told you.
This place. It isn't what you think.
Oh, I find it inside of my future lies beyond the other
I can get you home. And give you more time.
Hi, it's us. It's the Cinema. You're still listening to the same episode. Why am I introing us again? But here we are. We saw Ant-Man and the Wasp.
And what we've done is
Quantumania.
because we'd love to theme our podcast "Walk Home." We've shrunk ourselves. We're tiny.
Yeah. We're
our
walking.
mic is tiny. No one can see us.
No one can hear us.
And no one can hear us.
Yeah, and we could be stepped on at any moment.
And if someone comes
You're
near
really
me,
painting a
I'm
picture.
gonna jab punch. Was that it? Tap punch.
It was jab. Yeah, what was it? Tap jab. I don't know. I quite liked that. Use your momentum.
Yeah.
We will. If it's your first time at the cinema, there's no spoilers for this movie until you get to spoiler street. So we can talk. You're among friends here. We can talk openly about this thing. So I don't know. Do you want to go first? Want to tell us what you thought of Quantumania?
So first of all,
Quantumania.
like this is just, I guess, my very considered review of the film.
Okay. Oh,
which is that
it's been
grand.
considered.
It's grand.
Yeah.
That's my review.
It is grand.
It's
anyway, that was the cinema.
It's fine. Paul Rudd is fine, but I feel like there's something a bit haunting about him in this now. I feel like Paul Rudd knows it's not right anymore, and he knows. I think he's reaching to the point where Captain America was, where he was like, I need to see out my contract and get out of here. That's the vibe we're getting from Paul Rudd, and that's a hard vibe to get from him because he's a great, sweet, vibrant actor. Okay, and then I think the introduction of the villain, who I don't know if we're still not saying, so not in spoiler street yet. I love him. He's the best, or one of the best Marvel villains they've ever had.
He's great fun in this. He's a good actor.
We'll speak more to him in spoilers. So I really found that brilliant. I like seeing Michael Douglas and
Michelle Pfeiffer
on screen. And at that point, I guess I found that all good. And then the plot was okay. And then really what happened is it's awfully, honestly, the worst looking Marvel film I've ever seen. Now, we saw it in 2D. Maybe it's better in 3D.
I doubt it.
It looked like...
Why are things in 3D again? God damn you, James Cameron.
There was some elements...
We don't need this to do this again.
You can't release this 2 months after Avatar. But there was... I'm not joking when I say there's a scene in the film that is reminiscent of and very close in quality to
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah.
You have the same thought.
I had the same thought. Yeah.
Like it, and then other bits of maybe the intro credits to Quantum Leap. This is not. This does not look good.
I don't think it looks as bad as you're saying.
And there's a creature in it, and we'll speak about him on Spoiler Street. But there's basically like a Humpty Dumpty creature that looks like it wouldn't belong quality-wise on a kid's YouTube show.
See, I thought he was fantastic.
I like the idea, but it just looks so crap. So overall, I was just like, it feels like they've.
Well, we should.
It feels like they've not only given up in terms of like they're all slightly bored with it, but they've also like massively dropped the budget.
Well,
that's what my feeling. Now tell me what you think.
Maybe we should speak just before we go into what I think. Let's briefly speak about how the film looks, because I don't think it's as bad as you think, but I think there is just contextually right now there is a like visual effects sort of crisis happening. There aren't enough companies to cover the needs of all the streaming shows, all the movies, all the requirements for visual effects. So there's a problem there. There's also a crunch happening. There's an unrealistic amount of work being piled on these visual effects houses with unrealistic
We have shared
demands.
an article before where they
Yeah.
claim that they're being pixel
Effed
Yeah.
by Disney, etc.
Because Disney will be like, wait a second, we want to change the whole third act of this film. You have 2 weeks to fix it by.
Yeah, so that's happening, and also, so that's the sort of supply has gone down, or the available supply, and the demand has gone up, and also so that's just the quantity of things being released has gone up, but also the amount of visual effects shots in movies like this have increased exponentially. This movie, like Avatar, is 95% non-existent.
But you know what you can do,
It's
Dave?
basically an animated movie.
But you know what you can do if that's the case?
Yeah.
You can just use real life effects. Like, don't make your whole film a green screen if it's going to look this bad at the end of the process.
And maybe that is the solution. And look back to last year and Everything Everywhere All at Once, and there are YouTube videos that you can and should look up on the visual effects for that movie and how they were made. They were done with like 8 or 9 people.
There's
It's
also
like
a lot of artists
incredible
in the world.
what they managed
There's
to
a
achieve.
lot of artists in the world willing to work in real effects.
Yeah.
Tangible, I mean. So I don't what you've just outlined.
You
is
mean practical
effects,
yeah.
What you've just outlined to me is a problem that a creative studio should be looking at alternatives. They shouldn't be putting out something that looks like this.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't look distinctive. It doesn't, and it all just
blurry
washes
sometimes.
together.
Yeah.
It's very dark and undistinct. So basically, all right, that's that. How do I feel about this movie? I think you summed it up brilliantly. It's grand. If to our non-Irish listeners, that means it's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it is grand and magnificent. This movie is better than I was expecting it to be, I think, because I had no excitement, and I was mildly entertained. That's the best I can say about this.
Yeah, I got a little bit bored towards the end, but like in fairness to it, it doesn't have an awfully.
It's not
It
boring.
doesn't have an awfully boring third act like these movies so
No,
often do.
the whole thing isn't boring. I don't think it is.
It isn't boring. 5 stars.
It's not boring. However, it's not
However,
exciting.
by the end it's a bit boring,
It's not
though.
exciting. And I think this film limps along. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Plot-wise, like there is very little momentum or impetus for anything to happen except. We'll talk about it in
the main
spoilers.
characters being stupid.
It's just like
Stupidity.
whoops, and then it's just like now we need to do this,
When
and then
characters are that dumb as well, and they get themselves in situations, you're like, listen, mate, it's your own fault.
there's no momentum or drive for anything. There's no reason for anything to happen. There are too many characters in this. Michelle,
And yet somehow
there's no
not
room.
enough.
There is no room for Michelle Pfeiffer, for Michael Douglas, for Paul Rudd, for his Paul Rudd's daughter, for Evangeline Lilly, who has nothing to do in this movie.
She has
and she's
nothing to do
the
but
title
have a-
character, Ant-Man and the Wasp.
But
Forget
she's
it.
not the title character in this film, though.
It's Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
Oh.
The Wasp is
Okay.
basically
I did not know
less
she had
than a
top
side
billing.
character.
Right.
So there's kind of there's
No,
there's
Dave, she got a haircut
there's
and
no
someone
plot.
commented on it.
There's no plot.
She got a haircut and someone
It's
commented
fun-
on it.
the
That's
fi-
a plot
that's
for a woman.
Yeah, that is the extent of her arc, her character arc in this. Anyway,
no,
look,
but then at the end she dyes her hair blonde.
I can rant away in Spoiler Street, but I think that's all the negative stuff. I think from script-wise and plot-wise, this film has nothing to say. It has no reason to be. It is not shifting any dials except to introduce the big villain, which was done well.
Already
That's
been
done well.
introduced in a TV
But he's already
series.
been done, yeah.
I think
so
you
I'm
could
like,
skip this whole thing and gone straight in off the back of the TV
and I also
series.
have issues with how they've handled that, which I'll talk about in Spoiler Street. But that said, this film is full of ideas. It's bursting with ideas and brilliant creature design. But that is not.
There's one gooey creature that I liked.
There's some great creature
Yeah.
design in here. It's like Star Wars or Rick and Morty. It's just this mad universe, and I really think the art department had a brilliant did a great job on this, and it's kind of like, it's interesting to watch all these different characters. There's like a broccoli man, it's like, so that's fun. But it's like the film that is supporting it is, there is no substance to it, and it is just kind of pointless. And
But it's also kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy did that stuff better.
this does it as well, I would say, in terms of looks and creature designs and variety of species, and it's all very kind of entertaining.
But you know what this film doesn't have
it's
at
not
all
enough.
on
It's
Guardians
not
of the
enough.
Galaxy? It
What?
doesn't have the punch and the pace of Guardians of the Galaxy, and it does not have a soundtrack that you'd remember.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
we've just
exactly.
seen the film, and I actually can't remember if there was any songs in it.
There's a couple, but so it's just a bit lifeless. However, it is.
There's a scene when you know
It's
Ant-Man
funny.
can get big and small. There's a scene where he gets really big, so he's naturally just kind of like lumbering along.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this like a metaphor for the film? He's just too big. The Marvel universe is too big.
Oh, nice.
It's bloated.
Yeah.
It's tedious. It's lumbering along, like drawing blood from a stone in the last cash out of our wallet that I can get.
And it's knocking smaller things out, like smaller
Exactly.
movies out of the way, crushing them.
But never
at the
killing
box
them,
office.
because this is probably was 12s or something. I was like, wow, when Ant-Man's massive like that and he's trotting on villains.
What about the collateral
Hang on.
damage?
No, they
Like,
just managed to run away from
people
his
live
feet.
in those houses. Anyway,
No, it's
okay.
fine. He doesn't actually hurt anyone.
Okay, I think we should go
Spoilers.
to Spoiler Street. So yeah, would I recommend it? Like, no. I think
No.
if you are probably of the massive amount of the population that is going to all these movies anyway,
It's not massive
then
amount of
you've already
population.
gone. You've already seen it. And
If you were like, oh, I do want to know the table setting for kind of Phase 5 or whatever, just watch Loki, the TV show, yeah?
yeah, Loki's
Yeah.
more fun than
Yeah,
this.
watch Loki.
So that's it. Yeah. So I wouldn't. If you're if you're a casual sort of, I know a lot of people who dip in and out of these movies.
Do you know
this
what I
is
think,
this
though?
is one you can skip.
This is where Marvel never quite trusts itself, because we trust its wider platform universe, because with both WandaVision now and Loki, what we've seen is fantastic TV shows that really set something up being effectively repeated in lesser films.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And it's like they
Yeah.
don't trust that people will have watched the TV show,
Yeah.
and they don't want the TV shows to be the main event. They want because they want the bums and
Yeah.
seats.
You can't have your
And
cake and eat
so
it.
they're kind of then people like us who are sad enough to watch all of it. They just leave us with a bit of a, well, why are you wasting my time? I've already seen this, but better.
Well, did you see? Apparently, there's a new CEO at Disney, a different Bob, and he's the old Bob that was there. Mm-hmm. I forget if he's Eichner or something like that, or Iger. But he came out this week and said,
I know Ant-Man's really just grand. Can you all
he
go
didn't
and
quite
see
say
it?
that. Well, I think in a way he kind of did, because he said we are cutting back on the amount of Star Wars and Marvel content. We are only going to focus on. We're not going to just crunch out a lot of stuff anymore. So I think they're acknowledging that. Anyway, spoilers.
And there's not much to say, but we are on Spoiler Street, so you have been warned. Do not listen to this part if you don't want to know what happens in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Phase 5.
But however, before we actually do the spoilers, I'd like to do a quick shout out to some of our patrons over at patreon.com/the Cinemile. So shout out to some of our, we got a load of new patrons over the past couple of months. So here is some of them. So if your name hasn't been called out, listen out to the next few episodes. But thank you to new patrons Scotty Thompson, to Charles Tinsley, to Tara Wolf, to Brody Duncan, to Ian Carroll, not your uncle.
Yeah, I have an uncle called Ian Carroll, but we realised
That's
not the same
not.
one.
We have confirmed Ian's identity with him, patron. That's not him. Ben Marcini, thank you, and thank you, Janine Smith, and many more. If you want to join them,
Thank you, guys.
over at patreon.com/the Cinemile, you will get instant access to 40 to 50 retro movie reviews, loads of TV spoiler specials, all the stuff what we've been watching at the moment, weekly The Last of Us spoiler chats,
Yeah, weekly, and then obviously very soon there will be weekly Succession episodes when that comes back.
and you get to vote on what movie you want us to watch each month. This month we're doing Ireland on the big screen in honour of Ireland's big award success at the moment. And it looks like Wild Mountain Thyme is going to win that one.
Our patrons are all like, "Oh, we're so
They're
sorry to
punishing
do
us.
this to you, but we really want you to watch it." Like,
I mean,
we've been meaning to watch, so I think that
quite
will
do
be.
want to see
I
it.
kind of want to see it too. Now back onto Ant-Man and the Wasp, which, in fairness, is probably on par with Wild Mountain Thyme in terms of quality. Though I haven't seen that yet, so I can't comment.
Can't comment. So spoilers.
But do you know what? There's genuinely precious little to spoil about this film. Do you know what I mean?
It's
because
just,
it's that
do you know
whole
what-
thing where there's no ending, like the villain's still there at the end.
Do you know what bothered me is, like, why? Like, there's no
There's no point to this film.
there's no point. It's just like the
you know where I
the
thought it was
momentum
gonna be?
happens because they're like, oops, we got sucked into this universe.
You know what annoyed me so
Oops,
much?
we've been separated.
They're like, oh,
And then-
Paul Rudd. Michael Douglas is like, your daughter is actually a scientific genius, which you never knew, which doesn't really make any sense. And look, she's created this beam of communications with the quantum world, and then, Michelle Pfeiffer never told them anything that happened down there,
Yeah.
which makes just no sense, even though they a couple of times try to make it make sense that they're retrofitting this whole plot for her. And then they all just get sucked in, right? I was like, fine. And then cut to the very end when they come out, but Paul Rudd was stuck behind, and Evangeline Lilly, aka the Wasp, was with him, right? And I truly was like, this is so cool, because
leave them there. They're gonna get stuck
because
there.
Is my memory correct in that he at one point spent like 5 years there? He's been there for a period of time.
Well, no. Here's the thing: he spent a matter of minutes there, and 5 years passed, and he addresses that in this movie where he's like, "We got to get back. Your mother's going to be worried. We don't know if 1,000 years has passed or 10 seconds. We have no idea how time works." And then later in the movie, don't worry.
Yeah,
it's fine.
So that was frustrating, but what frustrated me
we got
more
back,
is
we
like,
got back home and everyone's fine.
but it's
and
also
no
like
time
fool
passed.
me
I'm like,
once.
what?
But it's also like fool me once, because before you made me think Paul Rudd was going to be stuck there forever, and then I was like,
there are no consequences to anything in this movie.
And I really thought, oh my god, Marvel's finally addressing the problem that nobody dies and there's no consequences. You only die if your 6th movie deal is up and you don't want to renew it.
And then you die, and then you come back 3 movies later anyway. So,
and I was like, that's brilliant, right? All finished. They're going to live happy ever after. It's a new world. And then the thing
opens up again. What's the point?
They don't even have to do anything to make it open up.
No, it's just like, here you go.
Oh, that's nice.
Here you go. Everything is so easy in this movie for
Yeah,
everyone. It's
everyone's so
effortless.
easy.
Everything is just like, oh, don't worry. It's like, this is a dangerous, hostile world. It's like, oh, don't worry. I've lived here before, and I'm a
Or
badass.
like,
And
we're
then-
American and we can't speak any other languages. Oh, that's grand. You just drink this goo and then you
well,
can
that was
understand
kind of
everyone.
fun. I like that.
It was kind of fun, but I was also like,
That's more
Marvel underestimates
that's more than most movies do.
But
where
can I
they're
say
just
that
like,
Marvel
everyone speaks
underestimates
English.
its audience so much that they wouldn't give us like 2 minutes where we couldn't understand what was going on. Like, they immediately had to rectify it, and I just think Marvel constantly.
No, but sorry, Kathy,
thinks its
that's fine.
audience
No,
is
you
so
have to
stupid.
have your characters be interacting with the
No,
other
but I'm-
characters
like,
who
it's
wouldn't speak our language.
It's
So
a
that's
2-hour
fine.
film. Like, you can give it a few more beats of them feeling like fish out of water before they're just joking around with everyone and like already friends with everyone. Like, it just happened so quickly. Like, I never felt like they were in any peril. Now, the only thing I would
everything
say
is weightless.
to this film's credit,
Literally weightless. Like,
it's not as long as they often make films.
no, it
but
doesn't.
It's still too long.
It kind of does breeze by.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's just all so pointless.
And then
Now,
you
it
have the
is-
really good new characters like the guy who plays Chidi in The Good Place, who I love, and then the woman who I didn't recognise, but she was kind of like the leader of
Yeah,
the
they're kind
resistance.
of cool, but like they have nothing to do.
Exactly, they're cool.
Nobody is fleshed out. There's like they're just like joke throwaway characters, or they're just archetypal freedom fighters. But even the main 5 characters, make 5 fucking main characters
5
here.
main characters is fine though if you give them something to do. Like,
Well, yeah, but they don't have anything to do.
Yeah.
The hero that the character arcs is Michelle Pfeiffer had a secret. This is the secret, and I'm like, okay, we're all over that. Evangeline Lilly has. Oh, how could you keep this from me, Mom? That's it. Michael Douglas.
Evangeline Lilly
Michael
cut her
Douglas.
hair.
I'm having a lot of fun here. I'm just having fun. Let's go along. Oh, here we go. Oh, you slept with Bill Murray. Oh my God. Here's the ants. That's his story.
What do you think of Bill Murray's cameo?
And then Paul Rudd is just like he's just Paul Rudd. The only thing that's changed is like, oh, Dad, you need to save people, and it's like, okay,
do you know what I
will.
actually enjoyed at the beginning? I genuinely enjoyed the bit of him reading his book. And then
That was
he's
funny.
like,
Sorry,
I've saved the world once, and like I don't want to do it again. And he's getting shit from people about it. Like, I enjoyed.
We
that
should
stuff.
say this film is funny. I laughed out loud several times. It's occasionally very funny.
Like the scenes like in
but
our world.
That's not enough.
With Paul Rudd. But the Bill Murray cameo threw me.
That was pointless. It was so pointless.
It took up so much
and Bill Murray clearly doesn't give a shit.
It just something about the combination of Bill Murray and Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Douglas in this film actually made me a bit sad, because I'm like, these are actors of a certain
I had the
stature,
same thing. Yeah.
And
here they are,
and it just feels a bit cheap. Like they should be doing good movies.
I've no problem with them, taking the work and getting paid, but it's like,
yeah, but I kind of think this they're above it.
It's all beneath them. Yeah, it is.
It's not like when, and I think it was very different when like Anthony Hopkins came into Thor, because that was like Marvel in its prime, and he had a really cool role.
But he's given it.
And he really went for it. Like that's
Kenneth Branagh directed that.
It was good. Whereas this is just like,
Bill Murray's just strolling up and being himself.
Michael Douglas like, ooh, I'm putting my hands in this goo. Yeah. Like it just fell beneath him. And then I just read Gina Davis's biography, which I really enjoyed, and she didn't give Bill Murray.
Come on,
he didn't come out nicely in her biography, and all I'm saying is that I think tainted my enjoyment of the film.
Yeah,
so I'm acknowledging that I had a bias.
Yeah.
But I was like, why is he here?
Well, it's pointless.
I think it would have been more fun.
I think nothing.
He could have not been in it at all, right? And what would have been way more fun is if Michelle Pfeiffer had hooked up with Kang.
That would have been. Yeah, that's already more interesting than anything we saw.
Because then because she keeps being like, I'm responsible. It's like, well, you weren't responsible for anything, really. You just thought you were helping someone. And he's the best character in it, so like, give him more screen time.
We've dunked on this movie a lot. Let's talk about. I thought Jonathan Majors is fantastic.
He's so subtle.
He's doing a great job. He's like very. He's very like controlled and reserved, and that's quite terrifying. I think he's chilling.
To be honest,
he was really chilling.
He came across so nicely in the initial scenes with Michelle Pfeiffer that I was like, maybe he's just misunderstood.
Yeah, you don't know what you're going to get with him.
Yeah, and I think it would have been really and I would never normally just say you should give two characters a love plot for the sake of it, but because you gave her and Bill Murray that. No, give it to those two. Let her. That's
far more interesting.
Let her feel really seedy about the whole thing.
Yeah, oh my God.
She didn't really have to feel seedy about it.
They should have let you at this movie.
Yeah, they should have. I would have made the best sex scene.
Now, here's my problem.
This film would not have been 12.
Here's my problem. I think Jonathan Majors is doing great work. I think Kang, as you know, they've announced the next Avengers movie is called the Kang Dynasty. Clearly, the post-credit scenes are setting this up. We had it at Loki. Like he's the new Thanos.
And that's why I was excited, because I loved the end of Loki, and then I feel like it's been so long since that happened.
Yeah, so finally,
look,
bit of momentum. I think good. I think I'm excited for him as a villain. However, I think this was a bad way to kind of introduce him properly, and here's why. Ant-Man always excelled at having lower stakes, more personal stakes. Because he's like, the first movie was just a heist movie. Yeah. There were no stakes. There were literally jokes about like, let's call the Avengers. It's like they don't have time for this. They're not going to help us. It's just like, and it was just like a evil CEO guy. Who is now, we won't even go into that, like MODOK. Like, that was just all really badly handled.
Doesn't this feel, though, like, again, because I reckon it's like a tier C of all the movies, if you're going to introduce him as like the big bad, he needs to be in your, I guess, what are the biggest, well, he needs to be in your Spider-Man or something. Like, he should have been in the multiverse.
No, here's the problem. Don't introduce him as a villain against one Avenger who then beats him. When Thanos was introduced properly in Avengers Infinity War at the beginning, like properly, he was teased for a long time. He comes in and instantly defeats the Hulk, the strongest character of all the Avengers in all the movies. The strongest character. It beats him without problem, and that establishes how powerful he is. And then at the end of that movie, it takes like 10 of them, even just to hold him down for a second. You're like, wow, okay, he is super strong and he is challenging. In this one, Ant-Man, as you said, the tier C character, gets in a fist fight with Kang the Conqueror with none of his powers. His suit's broken, and gets in an old-fashioned fist fight with him and fucking defeats him.
And so the other point is, he's not even in shape. He's been writing his book and
now,
stuff.
I know some of you will probably thinking, well, he's just a man. He just has very advanced technology. I'm like, fine, okay, but
in fairness, I think his main benefit is that there's millions of him.
It's just like you have to, it's like when you go into that thing about prison. You go into prison, you beat the you beat the biggest person in there, and you've established what a badass you
Well,
are.
so movies tell us.
So movies,
But
yeah,
I think,
obviously
but
don't
this
know
is why
anything
they
about
needed that. And in fairness, I stuck around for the end credit scene because I felt like they were going to do one, and I don't normally
No,
bother
but-
sticking around. Like showing us all of him, that's what makes him strong.
Now I have concern for the Kang bits here, in that whole thing just felt a bit to me like Eddie Murphy as the Nutty Professor. I think we're
like to me, and we've
I
given
think
up
we're
watching
getting
the Harry
into
Potter
this
movies.
could get annoying.
We've given up watching. We don't watch the new Harry Potter movies, but the last really bad one that you didn't see. I feel like there was a
The
scene where there
Secret
was
of
like
Dumbledore?
loads
Oh,
of
was the
people
one
like
before
that,
that?
and it looked really crap. And I just can't put my finger on why they look alike. But yeah, I agree, it looks kind of crap. But I love seeing all the different iterations
Honestly,
of him.
the other thing it reminded me of him, like dressed up in Egyptian garb and looking blue. I was like, we are so close to X-Men Apocalypse here. You guys are veering. Marvel is veering so close to the sun, it's going to get burned by its own failures.
And even the scene, like, just if we're going to talk about like it being a bit poor, like the scene where all the Paul Rudds gathered together, and then it was kind of a nice message if they all had the same goal to rescue his daughter.
That was kind of nice.
It was kind of nice.
That was a
but
good
then-
idea, but
then
it was
why
also
is-
just inconsequential.
No, but if you compare it to Kang, right, and I think maybe the whole point is that Ant-Man's just fundamentally boring no matter what universe he's in, but only one iteration of him is different. They were all identical except one where he works in Baskin Robbins.
Yeah.
Whereas with Kang, it's like, oh, cool, like he's so different. Like Kang's inherently
Yeah,
more
and I thought the
interesting.
second post-credit scene set in 1900 with Victor Timely and wacky hair and Loki and Owen Wilson, already that was more exciting than
The
anything
Loki and Owen
that
Wilson,
happened
I'm
in the
so
movie.
down for
Yeah,
watching
yeah.
them again together. But anyway,
So,
we need to
yeah,
go.
we better go.
We talked about
We took an
Ant-Man's too
extra
long.
long walk to rabbit on about this. But yeah, I'm like, I think they've really dropped the ball here.
They're on thin ice.
Yeah, and also we didn't
So
even
we've-
talk about the MODOK thing. MODOK, a very
What was that?
difficult character to
that from comics?
translate to live action. Yeah, and they
All I could
addressed
think of was
Humpty
Humpty Dumpty.
They addressed him perfectly. In an animated TV show voiced by Patton Oswalt, which is available on Disney Plus, which is very funny.
Okay,
because
so me
he's
not
a
knowing
joke
that
character.
at all, I was like, what am I looking at? Now, but
Exactly.
I find it very...
But how do you translate that? Because that's how he looks in the comics. A giant floating face
I
with baby
genuinely
legs.
thought it was very
Now-
funny when he was dying, and he was like, I died in Avenger.
I know it was funny, but then I'm like, what are you doing, guys? You brought him in, you're trying to establish him as a kind of a joke character, and it just feels like I
sad.
don't know. It was sad and weird. The tone of it was all off, and the effect of it was terrible. It looked.
Oh, finally, I have one
Awful.
more point. You know the way we always
Like,
say these films are just table setting
It's
other
horrible.
Like this movie is just set up for the Avengers. But the other thing is, Paul Rudd's daughter is just set up for like the young Avengers.
Yeah, and that's
it's just like,
boring as well.
okay, so great, she just has a suit and can do all
She's
the
a good-
stuff
she's a
now.
good actor,
She's
I thought she did a good job.
She's really
Yeah.
good. And she's from Big Little Lies, if you remember. She was the daughter.
Yes,
But
yeah. Was she?
but it's just like, okay, fine, so she can just wear the suit and do all the stuff all the rest of them do. Then again, it kind of takes even more away from Ant-Man. It's like, he's so lame that even his 17-year-old daughter can just do the same thing as him, who's never done any of it before.
Yeah, I know, right?
Just needed one bit of advice from him on,
Well,
like,
she's been
trust
training
jab
in the
or
background.
whatever.
Like, I don't know. You know they recast that actress.
I didn't know
She
that.
was a different actress in Endgame.
Well, I
he comes
guess
back after
probably
5
years have
years,
passed.
and the actress that had been playing her only found out on Twitter apparently.
Oh god, that's brutal.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have to go.
Allegedly.
Let us know
Yeah.
what you thought about Ant-Man. I know you'll all be messaging us. Come follow us on Twitter, on Letterboxd, on Instagram, and let us know what you thought.
At the Cinemile,
At the Cinemile
or
on all
email us
platforms.
thecinemile@gmail.com.
Yeah, and then of course come over to Patreon, please, and watch Wild Mountain Time with us and The Last of Us.
Yeah. Bye everyone. Thanks.
So, what's it gonna be? Ant-Man.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What would you say if I told you there's a book that can teach you how to win The Bachelor?
What would you say if I told you producers caught multiple finalists reading that book in this season that's currently airing?
What would you say if I told you the producers don't want anyone to know that their show has been compromised?
How do we know all this? We wrote that book.
I'm Lizzie Pace.
And I'm Chad Colchin.
We're the authors of How to Win the Bachelor and the hosts of the Game of Roses podcast, a bi-weekly podcast where we break down all the biggest plays, errors, and MVPs in the game of reality television.
Listen to Game of Roses wherever you get your podcasts and go to howtowinthebachelor.com to get our book.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.